Beauty mark piercings. Pros, cons, 5 advantages, 5 disadvantages. Buy a piercer. That's me. Coming up right now in episode number 18. For those who don't know me or are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I'm the owner and operator of the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about this particular piercing, I'm talking to you at a level of someone that has done the piercing numerous times and helped people through the healing process. With this particular piercing, it goes by many names, also known as the Monroe, the Maryland, the Madonna, the Crawford, blah, blah, blah. Basically, it is a piercing that is located on the upper lip, done with a labre style or stud style piece of jewelry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 advantages, 5 disadvantages of getting this piercing so that you can make an educated decision, or at least when you go in and speak to your piercer, you will have some knowledge to kind of discuss with them and get their insight on this particular piercing. We're going to start with the positives, the pros, the advantages. Number 1, this piercing has a long history of healing with little or no issues. I've done thousands of them. I've probably only seen problems with a handful of them. It is not like a number of other piercings where they're more prone to issues or problems. Number 2, draws attention to this area of the cheek, the upper lip, in the nose. Kind of draws your eyes into that, into the eyes. It can accent. It's one of those piercing that kind of enhances the look of the face. Number 3, can be as subtle or drastic as you want. This can be one of those piercings where you can have something very flashy or very, very, very elegant and sedate. You don't have to have something that says, boom, I have a piercing here. Come see me. This is a piercing. This is what I'm all about. Or you can have something that, most people don't even notice and fits well. It kind of one of those piercings that fits well into the body and seems almost like it was meant to be there. Number 4, there's a large variety of different types of ends. With this particular piercing, in labre style jewelry, does come with everything from very simplistic little balls all the way up to very elaborate, very elegant, very expensive gem settings. So you have a lot of variety to work with. Number 5, the last of the advantages. This piercing is not going to affect sleep as much as other piercings will, especially ear piercings or piercings that are on the upper torso or in general. Of course, if it's the side that you're prone to sleep on, piercing the other side, of course, makes sleeping a lot easier, but it's not going to come in contact with the pillow as much as, say, an ear piercing would, or even a nose piercing. It doesn't seem like it protrudes from the body as much, and sleep doesn't affect it as much. Now let's move on to the disadvantages, the cons. Number 1, this piercing, like any oral piercing, can do damage to your enamel, basically your teeth, the gum structure, your gums, and the bone structure of your mouth. It is a piece of metal that is often going to come in contact with flesh and bones and teeth. It is harder than the natural structure of your mouth, so there is always a possibility of having some erosion or other problem. This is why placement is extremely important. Usually they are pierced above the gum line and at an angle so that they don't dig in one way or another. Number 2, the ball needs to be checked on a regular basis. These balls can come unscrewed, and when they do, they usually fall off, land in the nastiest thing near you, or you can't find them the next day. The ball has to be on there, otherwise you are at risk of swallowing the jewelry or having some other problem, or just plain losing the piercing because the jewelry has to be removed. Number 3, swelling. This particular piercing is not as swelling oriented as, say, a tongue piercing. There is some muscle tissue that sometimes we go through, It can swell up. You are going to need to take some precautions, which I'll get into here in a little bit, to reduce the amount of swelling you see during the healing process. However, unlike a tongue piercing, it is probably not going to affect eating and talking as nearly as much as a tongue piercing would. But do keep that in mind. Swelling is a big issue with this piercing, especially for those first 3 to 5 days. Number 4, can limit your ability to become employed. Some employers, especially if they're extremely conservative, or you're trying to find a job in a field that's very professional, may have issues with you having this piercing, and you may have to remove it. This gets on to another problem that's with it, which is kind of a two-parter on this one. This piercing, like all oral piercings, a majority of the American the public, majority of people, cannot remove this jewelry for long periods of time without it closing. This piercing is prone to closure. I do not suggest removing jewelry and leaving it out for any extended period of time, regardless of how long you've had the piercing. That said, there's a small percentage of people that can take them out for a couple days and have no issue putting them back in. But most people, you take it out for a couple hours and it's already starting to close. It's partly because you generate tissue so rapidly in your mouth to protect yourself against infection. Number 5, this is where I go through the consultation. If you came into my studio and asked for this particular piercing, this is what I would tell you so that you can make an educated decision on whether or not to get this piercing and to let you know what healing this piercing is going to be like. Average healing time on this particular piercing is anywhere from roughly 2 to 4 months. You kind of treat it like 2 separate piercings. The inside is always going to heal much faster than the outside. So for the outside, I do suggest doing hot compresses or soaks with warm water and sea salt twice daily. For the ends, are also cleaning the area with an antimicrobial or germicidal soap at least once a day, twice a day if you feel like you've contaminated the area. And I do suggest doing it in the shower under running water. For the inside, rinsing with warm water and sea salt twice daily for the first 2 weeks. Also, rinsing 3 to 4 times a day with an antiseptic, alcohol-free mouthwash. I particularly like Biotene antiseptic, and that's only for the first 2 weeks. Now, swelling is something you're going to have to deal with, usually with lip and labret style piercings, which this is a labret style piercing. You're not going to see swelling right off the bat. It's not like a tongue piercing where you wake up the next morning or even later on that day where it's suddenly 3 times its normal size. Sometimes these will take a couple of days to actually swell. You do want to, first off, to reduce the swelling, cut down your intake of tobacco, alcohol, cannabis, hot and spicy foods, things that are extremely warm in temperature, and anything that may agitate your mouth. Think back to the last time you bit your tongue or bit the side of your mouth. What hurt to eat? What burned to eat? Things like tomato-based products or soda or citrus-based products. Stay away from those. If you ingest something and it hurts, you probably shouldn't be eating it or drinking it or etc. Food-wise, sports shakes, nutritional shakes, baby food, applesauce, all are really good standard things to eat at first until you know what you can handle, and then slowly start to wean yourself onto solid foods. I'm also going to suggest eating 2 to 3 cartons of yogurt a day. Not only will the acidophilus help kind of keep things in check as far as thrush and etc., because you're rinsing more than you normally would, but it adds nutrients and etc. that will help speed up your healing period and help fight off infection. It's also very easy to eat. You can put a little bit of granola in there for some added bulk, and it's just going to keep everything running great and smooth. Now let's move on to cross-contamination prevention. Common sense stuff. Wash your hands before you handle it. Always handle it by the ball or the ends. The only time you really have any contact with the piercing is when you're cleaning it or checking the tightness of the ball. Keep everybody's germy little fingers away from it. Understand that microorganisms like bacteria and other pathogens do move on the surface of your skin, so anytime you touch your face, you're going to want to wash your hands before you do so. Also, do not move or rotate the jewelry during the healing process. That's just going to increase your likelihood of infection and possibly prolong your healing period. No oral contact, deep mouth kissing, or sexual contact of any kind until it is completely healed. That means no. Also understand that you are more susceptible to STDs during oral sex. So if you switch partners, please practice safe sex the way you're supposed to, which means latex barrier. Keep your environment clean. Clothing, bedding, towels, anything that may come in contact with the piercing until it is healed. Keep pets away from it. Do not let them sleep in the bed with you. Do not submerge the piercing in bodies of water you cannot control the quality of, which means absolutely no swimming. Do not swim while this piercing is healing. Another thing you want to consider additionally on cross-contamination prevention is do not share food items or utensils with other people. Do not share a sandwich with someone, or soup or drinks and all that stuff. Also, make sure that your own utensils are cleaned on a regular basis. If you haven't changed your toothbrush in a while, I suggest you do. Also, don't store it in the bathroom. And it's never a bad idea to store something that you put in your mouth in an airtight container. Also, avoid sticking unclean objects in your mouth, like pen caps, toothpicks, etc. Because of the nature of the piercing, we are going to have to initially pierce with a longer stud than needed. We needed to have it a little bit on the long side, maybe a little crazy on the long side, to allow for that swelling. It's always better to have it too long than too short, because the piercing impacting can cause issues. You want to probably downsize that. It's always best, of course, when changing jewelry to wait until it's completely healed. But if you are noticing that the jewelry is coming in contact with your gums or your teeth a lot, or you're catching it, then it can be changed and downsized sooner. Maybe even as soon as a couple weeks into the healing process when the swelling has completely gone down. Now let's also keep cosmetics away from the area, especially powder-based or foundation makeups, until it is completely healed. If you use anything that comes out of a spray can or a squirt bottle in your hair, you want to shield it with folded up paper towel. Now let's talk about some lifestyle changes. You do not want to sleep on the piercing. Make sure you're sleeping on your other side or on your back. Also, if you have anything, if you're involved in any type of sporting activity or hobby that requires you to wear a mask or something against the piercing, I would advise cutting back on that activity until after this piercing has healed. You want to stay away from anything that's abrasive, constrictive, or blocks the flow of oxygen to the piercing. So, piercings like to be left alone and out of harm's way. And now you know. If you have any type of activity that's going to require you to remove it, either for professional work reasons or sporting reasons or hobbies or what have you, I don't really advise getting this piercing. Even after 10, 15 years removing the jewelry for any length of time, you're always going to risk this piercing closing. So it's a good idea, if you have that type of a lifestyle or have those things involved in your life, then maybe you consider a different piercing other than this one. There are retainers that you can wear in it, like glass retainers, etc. But most of that material is made to be worn for short periods of time. Another reason why you might consider not getting this piercing right away is if you are going on a vacation. You cannot swim with the piercing in during the healing process, so most people, when they go on vacation, they swim. Also, you can't control the environment that you're going to be in. If you have any upcoming medical procedures, tests, exams, etc., that may involve putting you under, or surgery, or some type of any type of MRI or exam where they're going to ask you to remove the jewelry because it's metallic and made of metal, I would advise waiting until you are through that process before getting this piercing. Well, I think that pretty much covers a majority of what I would say about getting a beauty mark piercing. If you have anything to add, or you feel like I haven't expanded on something enough, or you have a question, please leave a message or a comment in the comment section below. If you would like to add something, maybe you have this piercing and you have additional hints that you would like to add, please do share the information. We like that here. If you like the video, give me a thumbs up, because that means it's like applauding. If you'd like to see more of these, we do post anywhere from 3 to 4 videos relating to tattooing and piercing a week. Do subscribe. And if you want to make sure you don't miss one, hit that notification bell. Other than that, happy piercing. Hope all your piercings heal well and easy. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future.